Story 1. So I am the sibling who isn't going to help. When I was a teenager, my mom sat me down and told me she and my dad had their wills rewritten and that I was not included beyond provision for my care until age 18. She said the boy of the family carries the family name, so he gets everything when they die. She mentioned he inherits the house, cars, money, jewelry, and family heirlooms. She told me that if they die, my brother will not only receive everything but is also in charge of their funeral plans, so I have absolutely no say in anything. I told my brother that since he's the heir, he should deal with them in their old age. It's not my responsibility. He complained about how unfair it was that I had already decided to wash my hands of them, but I think it is very much fair. Why should I have to stress about their care when they didn't care about me at all? Luckily, my dad is already gone, and that responsibility fell to my mother without either of us having to deal with it much. A couple of years ago, my mother made a plea to my brother that he should not allow me to have any say in it if she has to go to a nursing home. She'll pick the worst one for me. I know she will. She's probably right. Story 2. I am the sibling, the black sheep, the scapegoat, the disliked child. So what if they hate me more? That's not a concern. Story 3. I agree that a dying parent needs to be in hospice. My siblings and I are unable to provide end-of-life care, but we would visit almost daily. Story 4. My mother is a difficult person who will likely be alone because she treats all of us poorly. If anyone is willing to take care of her, it will be my sister, simply because she is afraid of her. However, we have made it clear that we will place her in a nursing home alone. Story 5. I was the sibling that left home to attend university. I spent my first 2 years at a junior college. My mom was often away for her job, and my dad was frequently angry with me, challenging me to fight on more than one occasion. My mom passed away first because she wouldn't go to a doctor. My dad lived a long time, but the damage to me had already been done. My parents visited me maybe twice while I was in college and once after I got married. They came to see my kids and showered them with presents, but they were not truly part of their lives. My mom died young. My brother helped take care of my dad, and eventually my dad passed away as well. I would visit but felt disconnected from him. That's pretty much it. My dad never understood my choices. He couldn't comprehend why I lived 70 miles away and never visited. He didn't understand why we didn't come down more often. Sad, really sad. His grandkids are great people and very successful, but he was never involved in their lives. I don't understand that either. My dad is gone, and I don't really miss him. I know that sounds sad. Currently, I spend a lot of time with my adult kids and grandkids, and I appreciate the time I have with them. I hope my kids and grandkids have wonderful lives, and I will try to be involved with them for as long as I can. Story 6. I am the youngest of 10. My mother moved in with my husband and me right after my father died. She developed dementia after he passed away. I tried to tell my older siblings, but they didn't believe me. It took 2 years for them to finally realize that I was right. Now I have 5 brothers and 4 sisters. Once my mother was officially diagnosed, my brothers acted as if my mother were already dead. They not only refused to help care for her, but they never saw her, called her, or sent her a card. Not for her birthday, Mother's Day, or Christmas, nothing. So when my mom died, I acted as if they were dead. I didn't speak to them at the funeral or acknowledge their existence. One brother did apologize, but I have no contact with the others. Story 7. I want to help care for my dying parents because I believe it is the right thing to do. If my siblings feel differently, that is their choice. Story 8. I did it with my mother. She was a broken person and difficult to deal with. My sister married young, and my brother joined the Navy and left as soon as he turned 18, which I encouraged. It made sense for me to do it because she pushed everyone away and made them upset. As the scapegoat, I was accustomed to her behavior. I don't hold any ill will against my siblings. I'm glad they were both able to overcome our childhood and create fulfilling lives for themselves. Story 9. That is a level of help and assistance that must be earned and deserved. Negligent and abusive parenting has obvious and inevitable consequences. This is one of them. Story 10. I do not have siblings, but being a caretaker for a dying person is a significant responsibility, and I do not believe anyone is obligated to take on that role. I think it is best left to medical professionals. Story 11. Yes, that's me too. My mom had a tendency to favor me as the golden child, while my poor brother often found himself in the role of the scapegoat. However, occasionally the tables would turn, and he would unexpectedly become the favored one. I felt sorry for him because he was always being picked on. I would defend him whenever I could, but it often felt like arguing with a wall. The irony was that she could never be mad at both of us simultaneously. There always had to be one in favor and one out, and I was usually the favored one because I never confronted her. As an adult, I surrounded myself with intelligent, supportive people and worked hard to be there for my mom. I was there for her when my dad passed away and when she broke her shoulder. Not once did I receive a thank you, just criticism, shouting, and reminders of everything that used to happen when we were young. I decided it was best for both of us if I stepped away. My brother, bless his heart, has taken on the responsibility of caring for her, even though she is in an assisted living facility. She has removed me from the will, which is for the best because if anyone deserves to inherit, it's my brother. He has been a saint. I've let my brother know that I will be there for him when the time comes, and I will help in any way I can, but I am done with the person who gave me life. I have no regrets. Story 12. I would praise them for having a backbone because I would be doing the same thing. If my parents wanted me to take care of them when they need care, they should not have treated me poorly throughout my life. Story 13. I am not helping. Both of my parents are difficult individuals. Neither deserves anyone, let alone me, to care for them. I fully understand where my sibling is coming from because I would have made the same decision. Story 14. I expect financial support to facilitate hospice care, but I do not anticipate them giving up their lives and moving across the country. Story 15. It depends entirely on their reasoning and whether they have experienced abuse or have a difficult relationship with their parents. Story 16. My mother's large family is completely torn apart over who did enough caring for my grandmother over a decade. I have essentially lost the entire family I grew up with and still mourn it all the time. Parents need to make arrangements prior to old age that do not tear their families apart. They need to discuss their wishes and plan financially if possible. Otherwise, they are placing expectations on people who cannot or will not show up, leaving someone with the heavier burden to carry. Story 17. We have divided responsibilities among ourselves. My dad moved to where we are so he could spend time with his only grandchildren so far, with no idea if or when others might be born. I understand this means I will be responsible for his medical care. My sister will take care of our mom since she is her favorite, although neither would likely acknowledge it, and they are still in the same geographic location. This situation leaves my half-brother with my stepdad and my brother without a parent to care for, as he is barely managing to take care of himself. I can understand this arrangement. Story 18. I am not going to force anything on anyone. If I care for them, it's because I want to, not because I need to. Family doesn't only mean blood relations. Being a caregiver is not easy, and most families do not undergo training or prepare for it, as everyone is often too busy trying to survive on their own. Whatever happens regarding property, I do not really care. Even if they pass and my sibling doesn't help, I will still share with them. They have their life and I have mine. If I can help, I will. If I cannot, then that is just how things will turn out. My parents love both of us, but they would not want us to put our lives on hold to take care of them. I will do it because I care for them when the time comes. Story 19. Any information would be useful. Did they provide the sibling every advantage and support their education in medical school? Did they cause harm for an extended period? This information is important. Story 20. I was clear with my sibling and mother that since my father did not build a relationship with me and repeatedly hindered our family's financial stability, he had already wasted all the resources I had for him. They were both sad but understanding. He died, and while I miss some things in general, I did not have enough of a relationship with him to feel more hurt than when longtime coworkers have passed away. Story 21. I am disabled, and my brother is a single father. We told my mother that if her condition worsens, she will need to go to a care facility. We are not capable of taking care of her, either physically or mentally. We will choose a nice place and visit her, but we are not medical professionals. Story 22. If my sister finally saw our mother for who she is and left her to face the consequences of her life, I would be proud of her. However, she won't because she has always been the favored child, depending on our mother for financial support and childcare. I have been estranged from the family for nearly a decade, and she has probably written me out of the will, which is fine because I have built my own life. My father died without a will in 2010, so whatever. She is in her early 70s now, and the thought of her eventual death is always in the background of my day. I am not certain if my sister will stay silent to play the victim or if she will demand my help and expect me to do all the work, as has been the case for my entire life. I am not going to do anything. I do not even think I will attend her funeral, but I will leave that decision open for my own closure if the opportunity arises. Story 23 kind of needs context. Estranged for a legitimate reason? Sure, parents can be difficult too. Are you too poor or dealing with significant life issues? That's also acceptable. However, not wanting to show support despite having had a good upbringing is a sign of a problematic person that the family should distance themselves from. I believe that parents who treated you well deserve to be cared for. Not as a desire, but as a right. People need help when they are young, and they need help when they are old. Family is there for that and for everything in between. However, one can sever ties with family, so it's not absolute. Story 24. My sibling did not help with either parent, but I knew they would not. They had never helped before, and I knew they were not going to suddenly start. I just ignored them and pushed through. I haven't spoken to them since a week after my dad died, when they behaved like any grieving person would, only to call me the same day and blame me for both of my parents' deaths. They blamed my parents and me for how their lives ended up and called me mentally ill, evil, a liar, and always a pariah in my extended family. They were trying to rewrite history to portray themselves as victims, and this time there was no one else to corroborate their lies. Everyone else is gone. After that call, I did not speak to them again, and I feel better for it, but also incredibly lonely, as they were the last of my close family. The few distant family members I talk to understand and do not bring up my sibling, nor do they answer questions about me or what I am doing. Story 25. I am the black sheep of the family. My dad passed away 6 years ago, but my mom is still alive. My brother passed away in March, and who knows what my mom will do now. She made her choices, and I went no contact years ago, so she is literally on her own. Story 26. I am the sibling who has refused. Both my parents were very abusive to me growing up. I don't think my siblings experienced it as severely after I was in the custody of Child Protective Services for a few months. My sister, who endured the same level of abuse, mentioned this a few years ago. I will say I did what I could. My mother had limited mobility and early dementia for over 10 years after being diagnosed with cancer, and my other sister was the primary caregiver. I went to help her out for a few months after my mother was in the intensive care unit following a fall. My mother called me after her fall, and I needed to find a way to contact my sister, who was working at the time. I think they understood that returning home was painful for me, so they didn't ask if I wanted to help clear out the old house. We never talk about it. I want to know their answers to this question, but it's an issue no one wants to discuss. Story 27. Honestly, I have no idea. I somewhat expected it. My sister is the golden child. She's 13 years younger than me, and essentially my mother's second chance. They still live together while I moved out over a decade ago. They are also a lot closer than my mother and I ever were. I can't imagine my sister would step back entirely. My mother treats her well, and there is still a lot of love between the three of us. I also live across the country, so I can't imagine she would just say, "You deal with it." It's not like her. Ultimately, though, it doesn't matter. I am the oldest, so the responsibility falls to me. My mother and I didn't always have the best relationship, but we have done the work, and she is responsible enough to plan for the future financially while she is still psychologically capable. As for my dad, I hope he dies alone in a poor studio apartment infested with roaches. Story 28. I would not react at all. I would be too busy caring for my suffering parent and making sure they were as happy and comfortable as possible. They receive all my energy and more to compensate for the lack of effort put in by my siblings. I would not give them a second thought. Story 29. Taking care of a dying parent requires specific skills. Research the best support options for your parents and allow your siblings to be the children, not the caregivers. You do not want to be the person responsible for personal care or changing your parents' depends. Let the caregivers handle that kind of support while you focus on being a child who visits their parent. Story 30. My siblings live near my parents. I work out of state with my spouse and am dealing with a newly diagnosed painful medical condition. Story 31. How should I react to my siblings if they refuse to take care of our terminally ill and dying parents? I would wonder how I ended up doing this alone and why my parents did not get long-term care insurance to prepare for their illness. I would question why I am essentially their long-term care insurance policy. Then I would arrange for them to cash out their investments, checking and savings accounts, sell their home and everything in it, and use the proceeds for their care. For the two of them, that care would likely cost close to $10,000 a month, if not more, once their insurance is depleted. When that is gone, I would arrange for them to become wards of the state because they would have no money to care for themselves. Then I would walk away, likely in tears, but I would still walk away. Everyone in this world lives only one life. My parents get theirs and I get mine. They do not get my life too. After they are gone, if my siblings come to complain and ask where the inheritance is, I would show them every single medical and care receipt. I guarantee the folder would be at least 3 inches thick. Story 32. I would say they are better, but I certainly will not. Took me many years to finally start my life because of them, and I will not let them drag it back down. Story 33. My dad's 5 other living children, my half-siblings, did not help when our dad was dying. Everything fell on my mom and me. I haven't spoken to anyone on his side of the family since his funeral in 2018, and I do not plan to. I want to be clear that I would do it all again, and I do not have negative feelings about taking care of my dad. He was my favorite person in the world, and I will never regret being there for him. I just have negative feelings about my siblings. Story 34. I just learned about filial responsibility laws. You should research your state's law if it exists. I believe more than half of the United States have some form of these laws. Story 35. I don't know why, but all I could think about after reading this was, blood isn't thicker than that. Story 36. It is up to them. Cannot help. I live too far away. I believe my sibling who helps the most should inherit more. I could move, but that would require leaving my job and living apart from my spouse. I am not willing to live that far from my spouse, regardless of my job. I made a choice and there should be consequences for that. I know I may have regrets, but either choice I make will come with regrets. It is about deciding which I can live with. Story 37. My brother and I do not get along, and we probably have less contact than North and South Korea. When I told him my mother was slipping and asked for help to get her to a doctor's appointment, he told me she was my problem. I am not sure how much contact they have because she doesn't mention him around me, and I don't care how he's doing. Apparently, I am the executor of her will, and I would probably have to be the one to put her in a home. Our parents didn't spend a lot of time paying attention to us growing up, and it affected us. I could cut him some slack, but I turned out mostly fine, while he became a raging narcissist who is never wrong and never takes responsibility. I am sure that had nothing to do with his wife leaving, taking the kids, and moving 3 hours away. In any case, that was a lot of unpacking to say I already expect that and am unsurprised. Story 38. I have one sibling, and I understand. My sister has 5 children, all under the age of 15. She does not have the time or resources to help care for a dying parent, and it likely would not be mentally healthy for the children to be around every day as the illness worsens, especially since one of the older children has experienced serious trauma from losing people on his father's side. I understand that it would mostly be my responsibility. I know my sister and her children would visit as much as they could so my mother could enjoy the time she has left, and she would help me figure things out if it became too much for me. My sister has lost a lot of family members, many of whom she was close to, and I know she does not cope well with grief or death, so I would manage everything I could. The biggest difference between us is that she has dealt with grandparents and aunts and uncles passing away from a young age into adulthood. I lost my father when I was 18, and he was the first person I lost that I was truly close to. I believe this has made a significant difference in how we handle grief and the anticipation of loss. I could manage caring for my dying parent, but I don't think she could. Story 39. I would confront her and call her a huge hypocrite, given how both of us were very vocal to our aunt and uncle for doing the same thing. Story 40. My parents are divorced, and I only have one biological sister. Many years ago, we came to an agreement that when my mom gets sick, she will care for her, and when my dad gets sick, I will care for him. It seemed reasonable to have a plan well before it became an issue. Additionally, I tend to get along better with my father, and my sister favors our mother, so this feels like the fairest and easiest plan for everyone. Now that my parents have reached retirement age, my mother has had more medical issues than my father, so my sister has had to put in more work. Story 41. No one in my family has heard from my dad in literally a decade, not even my grandfather, who passed away less than 2 weeks ago. So I don't think anyone has to worry about taking care of him. As for my mom, I always assumed it would fall on me with little or no help. My sister has several children, ranging from a high school graduate to one less than a year old. She's too busy raising children to be in shape to look after our mom when she's old enough to require assistance. Our brother simply doesn't have the resources and wouldn't use them for anyone but himself. He and our sister have feuded for decades, and he would let our mom suffer if helping her meant cooperating with our sister. If he did help take care of her, he would hold it over our sister's head. Unfortunately, I'm the only one with the resources and freedom of movement to do so, if the need arises. I would ask for their help and tell them both that any unwillingness or inability to do so forfeits their decision-making power. They are both free to leave with my gratitude so long as they don't get in my way. Story 42. I would take care of my dad because he never left. As for my mom, she faces a harsh reality in her old age. My dad is the only connection she has. When the situation escalated, she lashed out at me. I gave her several chances to work together, but she continued to be abusive. Then one day, she flipped out and said she would take care of it, probably because she was still using our mother, who had dementia, for babysitting. It was early in the COVID-19 pandemic, and while I was pregnant, I had to step back when her berating caused me to experience actual contractions. I moved away to protect my children from the unhealthy relationship, and I feel a little devastated every day because of it. She believes I'm living my best life, but I am sad and broken. Story 44. I don't have to worry since my only sibling died last year. I still miss her, and I'm upset that I'll have to bury and grieve my parents alone. Story 45. My siblings tried to keep my mother in the United States against her will, without health insurance, and I had to help her escape after she fell and broke her pelvis. As I was bringing her back home, they also tried to have me arrested, but the police sided with me. I no longer have a relationship with my siblings. Story 46. I am an only child. My father has passed away. I have been urging my mother to make their wills manageable. My cousin is the executor, and I am fine with this. However, I hope she does not feel anxious while doing it. I wonder if my mother considered that when she made her decision. Additionally, I want them to establish power of attorney, and my mother says she is encouraging my stepfather to choose his beneficiaries, as he is childless, in case she passes away first, since she is older. She informed me that I would be their power of attorney. I work in healthcare and would make decisions based on my knowledge rather than my emotions. Story 47. We are all out of contact with Dad, so that is expected. However, I would be leaving some strongly worded voice messages if they bailed on Mom and me. Story 48. I love my siblings. While our dad and stepmom are not terminally ill, they are getting up there in age and have limited abilities. My partner and I help with splitting, moving, and stacking wood. When my dad had a total knee replacement, my teenager and I were there every week for a month, bringing wood in and stacking it up while my younger child brought snacks and assisted with physical therapy. My brother, at one point, showed up with his 12-year-old, loaded wood into his truck, and drove back to his house. I check my parents' mail once a week when they are traveling in their small camper, which stays parked by the bay near some friends, and bring in any delivered packages. They have a consistent relationship with my youngest son. My teenager is not interested in engaging with them as they are step-grandparents. While he likes them as people, he is a teenager with his own living grandparents, and they see him regularly and are happy to babysit any of their grandchildren. My siblings often act inconvenienced whenever our parents want to spend time with the grandchildren or make family plans. I don't have strong feelings about their lack of involvement. What I do feel strongly about is that they get upset when our parents spend more money on my children, see them more often, or post about them on social media. I didn't ask for a new swing set for my child, but they noticed ours is falling apart and that we've been visiting and helping once a week. I won't complain that a new swing set is arriving later this month, courtesy of the grandparents. Story 49. My brother lives across the country. I do not expect him to help at all. I would be more surprised if he did anything to assist. Story 50. I am in that situation, but I never expected help from them. Not because either of them has a bad relationship with my mom, but because they both have children and I do not. Story 51. My mother has set herself up for this situation. I am usually her primary caregiver, but recently she arranged a medical power of attorney based on birth order rather than on who should be making her care decisions. This decision placed me last, with my sibling from another state ranked above me and the eldest child, who effectively disowned her a decade ago, as the first choice. Since then, I have left any caregiving needs up to them. Story 52. I was the trustee for my mom after our dad died until my sister took my 88-year-old mom to an attorney and had her remove the trusteeship from me and transfer it to her. The issue was a few valuable paintings that my brother wanted. I told him he would have to wait until our mom passed away, as I might need to sell them to fund her care. Oddly enough, I welcomed the early exit. It has been great not having to deal with them anymore. Story 53. I live 350 miles away from my mother and have 2 children, one of whom has high needs due to autism. I am a single mother. It would be unreasonable to expect me to step up when 4 siblings live locally, 2 are child-free, and the other 2 have older, more independent children. My father was a violent and abusive person. Only one of his 6 children speaks to him. I swore I would never be in the same room as him again, dead or alive, after he made my daughter cry to punish me for some perceived slight. I believe my siblings would understand that in my mother's case, it is a situation where I can't rather than I won't. As for my father, I am not even convinced that the one sibling who does speak to him would step up. Nobody will lose much sleep over him. Story 54. My sister is a busy businesswoman who lives across the country, so I'm sure there's no way she could be there physically to help. She bought my mom a house, and I could go stay there with her to take care of her because my life is much more flexible. However, if she did something extreme, like wanting to put my mom in a poor living situation and sell the house out from under her, I don't even know what I would do. I would probably wait a couple of years before seeking my revenge. Story 55. People are free to make choices. The relationship with your parents may not matter as much, but the relationship with your siblings is important. If you mistreat them, they may understandably be upset with you and take it out on you. It is not unfair for them to feel this way if you impose your decisions on them. If you are fine with that outcome, then go ahead. However, you cannot claim your siblings are overreacting if they are upset with you. Yes, your parents can be difficult, and it is reasonable to want to distance yourself from them. However, your siblings are different individuals. Story 56. I don't think pragmatism is well-adjusted to a profound extent. Being well-adjusted, to me, means flourishing under conditions that we, as humans, often do not. I believe there are avenues for change, but outright refusing to participate seems counterproductive. What will you do if the Internal Revenue Service seizes your property for non-payment of taxes and places you in jail? Will you take things you feel entitled to but cannot obtain legitimately? How does this work? Story 57. I would be a little upset because my parents were good to us, but ultimately, from an objective standpoint, I don't think it's owed. especially if they are too busy with their own children. However, my relationship with my parents is phenomenal, and I plan on doing whatever I can to ensure they are taken care of if and when they need it, because that is what they did for me. Story 58. Regardless of who is in the will and who is not, it is not the child's responsibility to take care of their parents. If the parents included the child in the will as a way to manipulate them into providing care, that is wrong. Similarly, if the child only cares for their parents based on their status in the will, that is also problematic. Story 59. Isn't that what a doctor is for? Considering my sister-in-law is a hospice nurse, I think it is quite unusual. Story 60. I would probably sit there and feel frustrated. I understand why our parents weren't the greatest people. My mom is learning how to be a decent human being. It's at the point where I will definitely let her be a part of my future children's lives. Story 61. My brother refused to help, so I stepped up. You never get that time back once it's gone. I have completely cut off my brother since our mom passed. He never came to the funeral. Story 62. A woman in British Columbia, Canada, filed a lawsuit when her brother received the entire inheritance from their parents' estate. She claimed that cultural prejudice influenced the decision and had nothing to do with her relationship with them. She won the case, and the estate was shared equally. Story 63. If that happened, they would receive a stern reminder that I already sacrificed my 20s taking care of our grandmother. I am not going to do that alone again. Story 64. It depends on their reasoning. I would completely understand if it was overwhelming for them. If they simply did not want to deal with it, I would be disappointed. Story 65. My brother decided to leave us 12 years ago today. Clearly, he found a way out so he doesn't have to help. Story 66. If it were my real-life brother, I would make him aware that I would be deducting the fees for caring for them from his share of the inheritance, including the house and jewelry. I am not sacrificing that much of my time and sanity without compensation. If he wants to help, we can divide tasks based on our responsibilities. I work further away than he does, so some tasks may be out of my control, but we can manage it together. Story 67. I cannot relate to that. Story 68. I see the basic question, but there is no story to this. Yet, I see everyone's comments, and I have no idea what is going on. I clicked on the headline and still only have a headline, so what am I doing wrong here? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.